'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house Mr. Harrison's daughter is missing. And now at the house where she lives, the other girls are getting obscene phone calls. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Sleazoids, the podcast where we go down the rabbit hole of 20th century genre fare, from the most influential canon classics to the trashiest exploitation films we can get our hands on, and invite you to tag along in helping us create a canon of sleaze. Each week is a double feature grindhouse style where we discuss two films loosely related by subject, genre, actor, filmmaker, or franchise, and at the end of each episode, along with our honorary Sleazoids, which you can become by subscribing on Patreon. Jamie,
do it.
I was waiting for it. Yeah, do it.
I feel like I gotta surprise him, you know?
We decide on all the official ratings and rankings for every film that we cover. Patreon subscribers also get an on-air shout-out and 2 bonus episodes every single month, which...
So many episodes.
Holy crap, 11, coming up on 12 months.
Yeah, we got a year's worth now.
Holy crap, man. I guess we started them around February, March.
Yeah,
that's
true. That's
still...
True.
You guys have a lot of episodes back there waiting for you.
Oh, yeah.
A solid 40 to 46 movies talked about probably on the Patreon episodes alone. So if you haven't made the jump to Patreon yet, there's tons of content waiting for you back there. And speaking of which, we do have a few new patrons this week, actually quite a few. Sweet. So I'm going to rip through you guys if you guys don't mind this week. We have Ava Bujaka. Ava, thanks so much for joining us this week. Let me know how to actually pronounce that if your name ever comes up in the future in the comments. I would like to know. We have Kyle Lewis, no relation, as far as I know. Yeah. Kyle, let me know if I'm wrong.
Long lost brother.
Jack Feeney. I feel like I recognize Jack Feeney. He might be a longtime follower. And Caroline Crawford, who we just had Stephanie Crawford on the show, so I don't know if she has any relation to Stephanie, but maybe we'll find out there. Either way, thanks to all 4 of you guys for becoming patrons and getting all that bonus content. We appreciate you guys.
Thank you very much.
As always, the last plug is iTunes, SoundCloud, just wherever you're listening to us.
Anywhere.
I think possibly we might be on Spotify. It took It took a while to get approved, but I did get an email saying we've been approved. But I checked Spotify and I can't actually search and find us in there yet.
So it could be lying.
By the time this episode airs, if you guys prefer Spotify, maybe just go to your Spotify
Give it a go.
Take a search and see if we're in there. If not,
I'd like to know.
I
so
apologize.
Yeah.
But if you're listening to us on whatever podcast of listener of choice you happen to be listening to us on, if you could give us a good old rating and review over there, helps us find new listeners and get the word out. So thanks so much. We appreciate that as well.
Oh, yeah.
Now, that's it for the plugs. Welcome to a very special episode of Sleazoids. This is the holiday special.
Merry Christmas. We've got murder for you.
Yeah, I believe Christmas will be 2 or 3 days away for you guys when you are eventually listening to this episode. So hope you all have a happy holiday.
Yes.
This will be the last free episode of 2018.
It's been a ride.
1 year of podcasting for Jamie and I.
So cool. Very cool.
It's been weird. It's been cool.
Yeah.
We've had a good time.
It's been an adventure. I mean, hell, we've talked to Barbara
Crampton.
Had Joe Dante tweet out our
show,
Gremlins show.
I mean,
it was pretty cool. It's been a cool year.
Yeah, it's been really awesome. And I think by the end of the year we'll have hit 48 episodes or something like that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think so.
We're approaching the big 50, and we aren't stopping anytime soon.
Oh.
We're having fun. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. So thanks so much for spending your holiday time a little bit with us. I assume some of you are doing your holiday commute. You're doing your drive.
Yeah.
So this is for your listening ears for then. And this week we do have a very special Christmas episode. But before we get into that, we will go through the usual bookkeeping. 2 weeks ago would have been the last time everyone would have heard from us, I believe. And we would have had Stephanie Crawford on.
Oh, yeah, we had some damn good films on last week.
We were talking
2 weeks ago.
Crimes of Passion, Ken Russell, the second Ken Russell film that we've watched this year.
What a crazy madman.
What an absolutely insane man. Full of sweaty Catholic guilt and pure sexual violence and just...
Yeah, I definitely would like to read his autobiography. I got to know where this guy came from.
Yeah, I'm curious what he's like at parties.
For real.
So we talked Crimes of Passion with Anthony Perkins and Kathleen Turner in that, which was a pretty awesome movie. And we also talked Olivia, 1983. So two 80s prostitute, vaguely slasher / sexual fantasy oriented slasher films. Very cool, very interesting. Olivia in particular is probably one of the more low-budget films we've talked about on the show, actually.
Definitely.
And one I hadn't heard of and very cool, especially the bit with the London Bridge and how it kind of gets into a bit of a Hitchcock riff.
Yeah, it's got a great score too. Like it's not talked about. That's one of my favorite things watching these underrated things, to realize some of these scores are just unbelievable and no one's heard them. Yeah. It's a damn shame.
Yeah, I think that was the movie we looked up where only like 100 people had logged it or something.
Some guy made this amazing score for 100 of you.
Oh, man. But 1 week ago would have been the last time patrons would have heard from us. You guys had an exclusive episode for your ears only, where we went for the first time into the realm of fantasy.
Yeah.
And we talked Ridley Scott's Legend, I believe 1985, starring a very creepy young Tom Cruise as a little tiny... like child
Lots
boy.
Lots of legs and teeth in that movie.
Yeah, he's got very, very shaved thighs.
Yes.
He shows them off.
Real smooth.
He has a really very creepy smile that highlights how his teeth are kind of just off to one side a little bit. I don't know if you've noticed that.
Yeah.
While he's talking about unicorns and like holding foxes
and
like
charm,
frolicking in the meadow. Meanwhile,
I think we saw the first Tom Cruise on-screen run, which was just
glorious,
just monumental. So,
yeah, wouldn't have pegged that guy as a
hero,
caliber A movie star.
Yeah, not from that film.
After watching that performance, but it was still a really fun time because Ridley Scott directed that film.
He directed the shit out of it.
Yeah, it is completely gorgeously designed and filmed.
Yeah.
And Tim Curry's makeup and prosthetics as the Prince of Lord of Darkness or whatever he is, the guy who looks like Satan.
And his performance is fun too. Like he's very convincing. He almost makes you like him more than anybody else in the movie. He is
genuinely under like 500 pounds of makeup more emotionally expressive than Tom Cruise is.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. Can't disagree with you there.
And all he wants is a goth girlfriend, so... You know, as far as villain motivations go, I understood.
Yeah. I was on board with
so that was a really fun movie, and we also talked about the low-budget 1981 animated film Heavy Metal, which was an anthology film of all kinds of
it's like juvenile comic book work,
teen wet fantasy comic book craziness that had a little bit of noir in it, had a little bit of sci-fi fantasy in it.
It was like
went all over the
everything a
place.
Teenage boy would be interested in slapped into one comic book looking movie.
Absolutely. It had some solid jokes in there though, and it was a fun watch. So if you haven't heard that episode, that's for patrons over at patreon.com/Sleazoids podcast. But this week, because it's the Christmas special, because it's the last free episode, we decided we kind of wanted to go out with a little bit of a bang.
Yeah.
We're going to talk Christmas horror, Christmas exploitation. One of my personal favorite genres of film that's existed. Also because I have a broad definition of what constitutes as horror, obviously as genre, as defined by this show. Because for us, we've talked a lot about some things that are some of the purest genre movies there are, and some things that maybe, they could be argued, maybe not necessarily.
Yeah, definitely.
Like Vertigo,
right?
Kind of a drama, kind of a bit of thematically sleazy.
Yeah. It has we if there's sprinkles of it, we kind of just grab it anyway. Sometimes
exactly. So
we got to talk.
So
about
when
it.
I talk about Christmas genre movies, I don't just include, horror Christmas movies. I also include movies like Batman Returns, which is a gothic expressionist comic book movie. That to me is a genre movie. I also include something like Eyes Wide Shut, which isn't distinctly horror.
I completely forgot that was based in the time of Christmas when I watched it too.
Yes, well, we're gonna have to get it. We're gonna talk about it a lot when we get into Black Christmas, because I actually think Kubrick lifted a little from Black Christmas for that movie, and we'll talk about specifically why. But anyway, spoiler alert: Black Christmas is the first film, 1974. Bob Clark. We have to talk about it.
Also did A Christmas Story and Baby Geniuses.
King.
So King. What a career. What a career.
Yeah,
I love A Christmas Story, though.
I also watched his other movie that he did, Death Dream, something like that. We'll probably get into that a little bit too, because I watched.
It's cool that this guy, for me, he's done my favorite Christmas comedy, and now he's done my favorite Christmas horror movie. So it's this guy's king of Christmas for me.
Oh yeah. So 1974 Black Christmas. We have to do it because one, we're Canadians, and this is one of the biggest Toronto-based cult films.
Oh, I didn't know it was based in Toronto.
It was all shot in Toronto, Canadian made, and also the writer of the film, London based.
Really?
Yep. And some of you might not know, but Jamie and I both live in London, Ontario, which is just about 2 hours away from Toronto. So this is a collaboration between a Londoner and a Toronto.
That's so sick.
Not that Bob Clark is from Toronto. Bob Clark, I believe, is American, but he moved to Canada, I believe.
Okay.
And this was a Canadian production. So we're going to be talking about Black Christmas, and then we're also going to be talking about 1984, so exactly 10 years later, Silent Night, Deadly Night, which got a lot of notoriety and a lot of controversy for its images of Santa as a mass murderer.
Yeah. Some people I was even seeing, like when I was reading some reviews on Letterboxd, they thought it was almost too mean-spirited at times, which I mean that's kind of why I liked it, to be honest. But I found that interesting that people almost didn't want it to see Santa do all this murdering. And I was like, this is interesting to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm just sick.
Oh, we'll definitely get into it, because I saw a lot of not great reactions to the film, and I was kind of went into the movie kind of prepared to feel something similar.
I was thinking it was going to be more like an ironic enjoyment.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Yeah,
so.
no, I ended up really liking it too. It'll be a neat discussion, so we'll get into it. Anyway, those are going to be the two movies for today, so I guess we'll just get right into it. Black Christmas.
Black Christmas.
All right, we are back, and we are talking Black Christmas, the 1974 Canadian psychological slasher film produced and directed by Bob Clark and written by Roy Moore.
Did he do any other writings like that?
It doesn't really seem like it, honestly.
Oh, really?
It seemed like he kind of had one story
like
in
one-hit wonder.
apparently based on some sort of Montreal massacre that he heard about
wow.
of some kind that took place during the holidays.
Okay.
And it stars Olivia Hussey, Keir Duella, and Margot Kidder, who I think is probably one of the funniest performances in this movie. That's sort of like the vaguely, she's supposed to be kind of the more of like the floozy type of the sorority.
Yeah.
But there's kind of like
She's
a weird,
the one that makes the fellatio joke to the cop.
Yes. But there's actually kind of like a weird kind of like sadness that's kind of like just beneath that. And I think that's her performance is actually a huge, like it sort of encapsulates kind of what I feel about this film, which is that it's trying to get into a kind of weird, lonely sadness, almost sickness that hides underneath the holidays.
Yeah.
Which is, it wasn't the very first time that this was done. I believe that there were other stories that kind of had Christmas involved in a kind of sadder way.
Yeah.
But this was the first time it was ever done in what appears to be more of like a straight genre film. And it's interesting because...
Where he literally used the metaphor as a killer, like an actual...
And what's kind of fascinating...
Who has clear family issues.
Oh, yes.
The way that he talks, and like you don't ever really understand what he's saying, but it's clear that there are some deep-rooted family issues going on related to the holidays. So
yeah, and you feel like it has something possibly to do with an abusive mother or something like that, but you never really find out.
And I think that's part of the beauty of this film. It's almost like it adds to the psychological torment of it. Mm-hmm. You know, the fact that you never really get any answers.
It's just that one guy is really, really lonely during the holidays, and he proceeds to make everybody else feel the same way.
Yeah, exactly. It's
kind of what happens. But what's really cool about this movie is that it is actually considered alongside A Bay of Blood, which we already talked about the show probably a few months ago now. It's hard to tell. Time goes by really fast on the show for me.
They have that, like a few of them, those amazing POV shots and things like that. That I mean, I think this had to have just like A Bay of Blood.
Some of
influenced
the first
Halloween quite heavily, right?
It did.
Like I mean, especially this one, like with he's looking at the house. He hasn't quite gotten there yet. It's
kind of got like that wide angle kind of look to it.
And I even think you hear breathing and things like that. Yeah. So it's kind of I was amazed.
And from what I understand, the cinematographer like kind of like mounted the camera to his own like back / shoulders, so he could actually kind of like walk around with it.
Yeah,
so
there is a sway to it and everything.
You get that feeling that the camera is making human movements.
Yes,
right.
Absolutely.
Which is like very distinctly different than just a camera observing.
Yeah.
This is very clearly a stalker image, which would hugely go on to inspire filmmakers like De Palma, who would use them in almost every single one of his movies.
Yeah.
And it would hugely influence the horror genre as this very unbearable point of view of this guy's going to do something horrifying and you're just sitting there watching, waiting for it to happen.
Yeah.
And this is, from what I understand, the first like recorded nature of it happening in this way, even before Halloween. Cool. Yeah. So Bay of Blood and this movie together, because Bay of Blood I think was 71 or 72 and this is 74, they are credited with the invention together of the slasher film.
Yeah, and
and then Halloween is kind of what brought it into what we popularly know as the slasher now.
Okay.
So all three films together are the birth of the slasher film.
Yeah.
So over the course of this show, we've talked about all three of these movies now.
Very cool.
We have documented the birth of the slasher on this show.
On this show. You heard it here. That's awesome. Because like even there's so many elements that reminded me of Halloween, actually. And it almost made me feel like I almost have to put this on like equal level with it in a sense, because like even, and I'm jumping kind of everywhere here, but I feel like because we're having the discussion about Halloween, it fits, is even like the ending where we're kind of left with just this, like, nothing was really resolved. Nothing happens. And instead of breathing, we just have, the rocking chair going back and forth and Christmas music, and then the phone rings. And it's just kind of like, it was very similar to going back to Halloween, where we watch the shots of the suburbs after all this chaos happens, and all we hear is
the heavy breathing and like,
and I was like, oh damn, this is pretty much coming from Black Christmas in a way. And that was a cool thing to see.
It's the same idea of that there's kind of just like a larger evil that exists.
Exactly.
And it was out there before this movie started, and it's out there after this movie ends.
Nothing's explained to you, so you're just sitting there like it's still out there, it's nothing's been resolved, and it doesn't give you that feeling.
Because watching this, you feel like you're watching a riff on a slasher movie. Like you feel like you're watching a derivative slasher movie that came out in the 80s.
Definitely.
Like you're like, I've seen this movie before. And but then you go back and you're like, oh shit, like he did this before those things existed.
Yeah.
So then you're like, okay, well I have to recalibrate my thinking on this now.
Absolutely.
And especially because it's just really well crafted. It's very simple, but like there's lots of great use of the split diopter shots, which we've talked about a lot, which again was another huge De Palma staple. But also we saw Carpenter use it in The Thing. That's that one where you get two kinds of focus, where you have a shot focused in the background and a shot focused in the foreground on the left and the right side, and then you splice the two shots of film together so that you get like this weirdly focused on both the background and the foreground.
Yeah,
but it's still you're using shallow focus, so it's like hyper focused on both things, and you're like, why are my eyes hyper focused on two things right now?
I don't know how to feel.
Yeah, like it's like it makes it honestly just trains you to be uneasy, because that's just not what your brain is used to processing what shots look like.
Yeah, it's because it makes it so you can't really focus on anything one thing specifically.
Yeah,
your brain is in this like, what's over there?
Yeah, because if you have a character in the foreground on the right side in focus, the guy is telling you, put your eyes over here.
Exactly.
If both of them are in focus, then your eyes are like, what the fuck am I looking at?
Yeah. What's going to happen? Yeah, it builds anticipation. Absolutely.
Yeah, so with the use of like these wide angle stalker POV shots and these split diopter shots, and I found actually because I do believe it was kind of, because this is a low budget film. I believe it was like 500,000 or something at the time.
Okay.
There's a lot of natural lighting in the films, and you notice that a lot when they're like outside. Like it's just there's not like very much lighting setups. It just looks like a normal kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think they also did that for the interiors. And what he used as a source of lighting was Christmas lights.
Yeah, and you can tell because the Christmas lights give off this kind of like, things are lit and because of the colors they're slightly discolored and all that, and then it also gives off kind of a darker light rather than this kind of fluorescent.
Exactly.
So
there's almost
this
just
old school
there's
vibe
like
in
a
way.
slightly like red like glow almost.
Yeah, it's almost like the Suspiria thing,
very muted.
but it's not as in your face. It's just
because he's using like Argento is using like real shining lights right on you that are brightly colored. Yeah,
whereas Bob Clark's more just kind of like setting a mood in this darkness, but also using the Christmas lights to light it. So it has something that you'd think of as nice, and people like to go look at the lights and all that, but then it's lighting this setting of murder and chaos. So
right, well, and that's just it, is that I feel like he's kind of getting at this idea that this is an artificial glow. This is like a thing that we've made. It's like dress up kind of, right? And it's dressing up.
There is a lot in Christmas. I mean, I'm a big fan. I have a great time with Christmas, but there is always that underlying stuff going on with family, and there's commercialism and all that shit. So I mean, like, he does a great job of showing both of those sides, because you do still get a lot of humanity out of this film, because you have the group of people that are friends, and they're going through a lot of issues themselves with relationships and things like that.
Well, yeah, I guess we should get in maybe to some of the actual plot.
Yeah, sure.
But it takes place at the University of Toronto. I don't know if it's meant to be actually the University of Toronto, but it was very overtly the University of Toronto, no matter how many American flags they put on like the desks or whatever. And it centers around a sorority of a bunch of girls on Christmas break who are ready to party it up. Some of them have, they want to get laid. Some of them have pregnancy scares going on.
Yeah.
Some of them are just being sorority girls and wanting to sort of, seems like some of them are kind of like feeling their first bit of like, sexual freedom, it seems like, and some of the parents who come around snooping are a little not pleased about that. Exactly. This is
want to keep their kids.
Yeah, this is a very coming out like post the university girl panic of like, are all the girls like having sex and having babies?
Liberation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So this movie came out after that, and it's a lot of these girls kind of just having general school and sexual drama in university. And honestly, in the scenes where it's like people talking to each other about that stuff, it's kind of just like a teen drama comedy type thing, right? There's
some absolutely raunchy things that are said too.
Like,
it's not. It doesn't pull back. It's very like Porky's level, sexual natured kind of stuff. But then, of course, he does a great job of adding all this character stuff, like the lead girl is pregnant and she herself doesn't want to keep it, but the boyfriend wants to keep it, so they kind of have that conflict going. Yeah. He's a little on edge. It's obvious that he has a lot of stress in his life, but he's not handling it well at all.
No, he gets pretty aggressive pretty fast, and I don't
which makes you confused as an audience member, and they use that, as the possible killer. You know?
Yeah, well, because what it kind of does is it kind of correlates with the larger like form of the film, which is telling you that there's these kind of surface things that we present and we make, and there's kind of these really dark things just underneath them.
Yeah, and no one really
so all of a sudden
about.
When there's this really nice boyfriend who seems like he's really successful, he's possibly a musical prodigy.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden he's like, "You bitch, I'll like strangle you or something." You're like, "Whoa."
Oh, okay. It's like, I get, these artists, they're crazy, but going a little too far.
Yeah, so so your brain kind of like naturally just puts those two things together.
Yeah.
And it gets really fascinating when it gets to because like the climax of the film actually kind of hinges on that dichotomy.
Yeah.
And it's really, really fascinating.
Because the film makes you because I was struggling with it because the film, I didn't want him to be the killer because I just thought it was too much of an easy thing for the film to do.
just make that guy the killer.
And then, so I was kind of almost upset at the film at first of the way that it was going. I'm like, are they going to do the obvious thing here? And then the way that they kind of psychologically mess with you, not just the lead girl who is having that same confusion. Is it this guy? Is it this boyfriend I have? Is it just a random guy in the house? Whatever.
Yeah, because it's very suspect that at the same time where there's this really creepy dude, anonymous dude calling the house, being like, pig cunt, fucking
just
lick it, I'm gonna fucking kill you.
And
or
like 3 different voices too, like
which
are scary.
Which
as hell,
I
by the
believe
way.
some of them apparently are Bob Clark himself.
Wow, that's amazing.
And there's these really, the girls are getting these really creepy phone calls from this guy who's talking about how he's going to kill them. We're getting these stalker POV shots and murders where he is slowly picking some of them off one by one.
Yeah.
Some of them in pretty horrifying ways, like that attic kill.
Oh yeah,
where he drops the
hook?
The hook
it's like
on
a
her.
swinging
Yeah,
hook.
She climbs up into the attic and swings the hook at her, and then pulls the body up.
Yeah.
And now, did that remind you at all of Texas Chainsaw Massacre when he pulls that girl through the door?
Yeah,
when that body
bit.
gets pulled up through the attic, I was like, whoa.
And there was another thing too. I was saying, I think I might have said it on an episode where we were just happened to talk about Texas.
Yeah.
And it was that scene where he pulls her in, and it's just simple. It's just a guy picking up a girl and with all this force just
pulling her into like
an
an unknown space kind of
deal. It doesn't seem like it'd be that scary, but it's bone chilling.
Yeah.
And this has that same kind of vibe because it's like, it's how they film it and how they pace every one of these kills, because this film isn't that gory. It really isn't.
No.
There's not
There's
a lot
hardly
of
anything in it,
crazy shit in it. It's just the way that he paces each murder, your brain does the rest of the work. It's kind of like Shock when we saw that guy rise to become the demon or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
It was just like, it's no more than a guy rising into the frame, but it's just the way that it paces out. It's just bone chilling.
Yeah, your brain fills in like the empty space.
Right.
Yeah,
it
exactly.
just makes it scarier. Because once again, the killer, we never see this guy.
Yeah.
But I just have this I couldn't even explain it to you, but this guy just has to be the most messed up person ever. You know what I mean?
Between the voice and between the way that the kills are filmed and stuff, there's
his sporadic nature. He's not like Michael where he's calm. He can go off like that to the point where he's just this like juggernaut of chaos.
He's very impulsive. Yeah.
And he does these like high pitched screams while he's doing it. It's just so terrifying. Yeah.
Yeah. So the way that, this sort of this side of the story kind of it infuses itself into this is what becomes suspect, is because while this stuff is happening, her boyfriend is showing signs of being really aggressive and possibly violent at that moment in time. And she's like,
because they even find like he smashes his piano, so they're starting to build evidence of like, oh, maybe this dude is a physical threat, he's not making his case look good. That's for sure.
So the movie is putting it together in your head, both through its narrative and both through these sort of different scenes, that there is sort of an uptick of general paranoia and violence that is accumulating in both the characters and you as an audience member.
Right.
And you immediately start filling in those gaps, trying to be like, okay, so he's the guy. And the most interesting decision that the film makes is, first of all, they never tell you 100%. He's not, I think. But they leave it so vague that you're kind of like, which is the point. It's just because the only piece of evidence she has is something about like he couldn't have killed the first person because he didn't hear the news.
Right.
But then we're led to believe that this is also part of like an underlying thing that he has. So you're not sure.
Yeah.
But then it's presumed by the end of the film that you already mentioned that it lives on even after he's dead.
Yeah.
So it's just
I did assume that he wasn't the guy.
I don't think he was either, but the film just makes it really ambiguous.
Yeah, and I think, right, it just adds to that nature of, especially the mystery of the killer, because they leave you with absolutely nothing. They don't even give you, there's no story. There's no scene where they sit down and they're just like,
here's the killer, here's how he was made this way.
Or anything. There's nothing. It's just this guy that shows up at a Christmas party and kills people.
Well, because first of all, what I think actually is the movie is I don't think that he was the killer at all.
Yeah.
But what they imply is that he could have been made into a killer.
Yeah.
Is the thing. The same way that this guy seems to have been somehow made into a killer by an abusive relationship of some kind, or
which we'll get into it, but that's a great connection to the Silent Night too.
Yes,
it's kind of
being
like
made into a killer.
Yeah, you're just
because
these things are going to keep creating monsters.
Also, think about how she was made into a killer.
Right.
The main girl too, right?
That's a good point.
Because this is the main.
I actually didn't really make that connection. That's a good point.
Well, because that's the amazing bit about the climax where she is going, logically, he can't be the killer because the first person was dead before I even told him about the pregnancy.
But the fear and the thought of the possibility
and he's breaking in, trying to like get in, and she's sitting there being like, "Holy crap, he could be." Is the thing that's almost scarier.
Yeah,
it's just that someone you know that closely could be the person doing this to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And even when he's approaching her, you get like you can tell that at that point he's unhinged, even himself. Like he isn't the killer, but he's got this. He's been going through a lot that night. We'll say that. And he gets down and he's like going towards her, and she's just not responding. And you'd think that he'd have a response of like, why do you look like you've just seen a ghost when you're looking at me, right? But he responds and he just keeps moving forward. He's just like, what's wrong? Are you okay? And it does seem threatening.
Yeah.
It does seem threatening, the way that he's approaching her.
And you're not sure if that's like her feeling that way,
or you, just because you've been trained now to think that this guy might be the dude.
Yeah.
So you're like... So you feel exactly like
honestly, that's
feels.
kind of the genius of the film, is that it makes you just feel really thorny things about these characters by just showing you things, then being like, now watch these events unfold with knowledge I've already given to you,
right?
And try and make up your mind about it, and and you really can't.
Yeah,
really, you're sitting there and you're gonna watch. It's very fatalistic. It's very like, this is gonna go bad. That this is there's a larger evil here, and it's probably gonna win out, and that's kind of like what we end up watching unfold.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, the larger like mood and atmosphere that Bob Clark's like supplies while he's giving you this goes a long way with doing that too. Again, the stalker POV stuff, but also I couldn't believe I was watching it, that sequence where he kills the sorority girl upstairs. I think isn't Margot Kidder that he kills in that one? With the glass unicorn.
Oh Jesus, yeah, that's a brutal death.
Yeah. Well, and the editing of it is the main thing, because there's previously established that there's these Mormon Christmas carolers who like come around.
Yeah, you're right.
And
they're splicing it in with the Christmas carols and the music.
Exactly. So the Christmas carols are out there, and all these kids are singing, and they're singing this Christmas carol. It's really innocent, and the main girl who has the pregnancy scare is out there listening to the kids sing, being like, oh, this is so nice, so nice. Meanwhile, we're cutting to the stalker images. Meanwhile, we're cutting to this girl in this really dark bedroom that's so dark it almost looked like she's in like a void. Yeah, like she's the only thing there. She's waiting for the stalker to come to her. It's all black.
Throughout this film, you're surrounded by Christmas lights and things of that nature. So you're just kind of like, you're used to a colorful thing, even though it's a little dark and grainy or whatever. Yeah. But it still has some sense of life to it. Whereas that room, it's just like, this is where you die. This is it.
Yep. And they set up multiple times the shot of this glass unicorn that's just just sitting there.
Yeah.
And it actually is like the main shot of the movie that everyone kind of knows is the shot of him holding it above with like the light on his eyes. So all you see are these deranged eyes in a black void with a giant pointy piece of glass with light going through it.
And that shot of the eye, the really close-up shot, I'm not sure if it's the reflection shot, but there's another shot where it shows him through like the closet door or something like that.
Yes.
And like the middle of his eye is like pure red,
it's so wide,
he's a demonic, he's not even a part of the earth. Like he's just legitimately looks like a demon or something like that, or at least the eye does. And it just gave me the sense of something that was like not of this realm.
like the kills are very, I guess they're very heightened and stylish, and I guess the rest of the film kind of just isn't that way. We talk like it's kind of like very natural and realistic. You know, in terms of lighting and in terms of setting and in terms of some of the conversations between, you know, the characters that feel like you're in a normal teen drama. And then all of a sudden these murder scenes happen and they're like on another planet that they're happening on. Which is really scary because obviously the consequences are felt by all these real people, especially, you know, when I don't actually think they ever find the girl who's in the rocking chair.
No, that's kind of, they don't find the head mistress, I believe. Oh, wait, they do because he moves her body to Beth's bed, I think.
Oh, yes.
And so they do find her. But you're right, he keeps her in the attic the entire time, and they never go up in the attic. Because they
genius
just
cops.
Eventually,
maybe we should get to them too. The subplot of the most inept Canadian police officers of all time.
We're not used to this. Guns and shit.
Well, even when they first go in there and they're like, yeah, the girl is missing, and they're like, oh, she's ran off with her boyfriend or whatever. Like, fuck off.
Yeah, well, especially that one cop. I will say, at least the lieutenant gives a shit. Like he tries at least.
Yeah, because they eventually find some sort of body, or like they find they find the people who were killed outside or something. Yeah, right.
They go to that first cop, and this dude just does not want to be a cop. Like he just is like, she'll be fine. Just we're not even going to make a report. Basically. and then things start to develop, and I think it's like a day after, and then the lieutenant goes up to him and is basically like, why haven't we done anything about this, you idiot? You know, so...
Well, and he's also the one who gets shit on for being stupid, right? Because he's the one where she tells him the name of the sorority is Fellatio.
Yeah. And I almost... It was a weird moment for me, because I didn't, feel bad for him in a sense, because... He's obviously kind of a dick and doesn't really do his job, but I did get this background sense that
everyone made fun of him.
Makes fun of him, and maybe that's why he is the way he is. Because I actually kind of felt bad in that sequence.
Yeah, the scene where he's just like, she gave you fellatio,
and then the guy's just losing his mind at him like he's a total moron. And he is, but I actually kind of felt for him, surprisingly.
Yep. I also loved the brief bits in here we get of 70s hockey.
Oh, yeah.
You know? Yeah. Classic Canadian pastime.
Beautiful.
Oh man, there's all kinds of fur coats and skidoos and ski masks and it's so good. It's so awesome to see, because you don't see a lot of 70s Toronto. I feel like it feels weird kind of looking at it, because I lived in Toronto for a while and I recognized the UFT area, and I was just like, wow,
that's very cool.
And apparently the Black Christmas house is still somewhere in Toronto there. I don't know where. The actual sorority house is just a house there.
That'd be cool to see. I know that.
I don't know what they've turned it into. Maybe it's like a restaurant.
Christmas Story, the other movie that he does. The house is actually in Cleveland, which is where my band is, and they actually, my bassist just had a picture with the leg lamp or whatever. But yeah, so awesome. I want to go visit that house now. The Christmas, not the Christmas Story one. This one, Black Christmas. I wonder if they have it as a landmark or something, because they do in Cleveland for the other one.
Very possible.
Yeah.
Trying to think of other things I really like, because I liked a lot of the small details of this film, and it's also it's got to be the first film that did the phone call tracing thing, which was really cool.
I was gonna say that it's from inside the house.
Yeah,
it's coming from inside the house.
Because as modern viewers, we watch that whole thing unfold, and we watch the whole thing unfold, and we're kind of like, because
that's become a joke.
It's almost a meme.
It's a gag now.
It's coming from inside the house. Yeah. We've traced the call.
I wonder. I wanted to know what the OG movie is for that, because it could be this.
I don't know. 100%.
I don't think it is though, because I thought it was something more I thought it was called like When a Stranger Calls, and there's like an older horror movie
or One Missed Call or something like that.
Something like that. And I thought that's where it was
I think
from.
there is an original version of that film before they remade it, which is like the
Yeah.
main film where that happens in it.
Yeah.
So it's possible this isn't the first case. It is really well done in this film, though.
Oh, it's really well done.
Because
and you already know, so it's not like
he makes it really well, yeah, that's just it. Is he makes
it's for the characters, which is why it works.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and it's that classic case of like dramatic irony of a case of the audience. We know before the characters know that he's already in the house, but there's still a lot of suspense to like them maintaining being on the phone.
Yeah.
And like being like, you got to get him for longer. You got to get him for longer, calling you and talking to him. And you don't want to talk to him because he's not a great phone conversationist, you know?
Yeah,
he just sits there. He's like,
yeah,
bitch.
Yeah, he literally just yells the worst words he can possibly think of, and then just breathes heavily and does like tongue shit.
Yeah, he just like yells cunt and is like, I'm gonna murder you, and like
it's not my favorite phone
and
call.
she's like, cool, like
I love the little dialogue where the lieutenant is continuously telling her, he's just like, you have to keep him on for more than 20 seconds or we're never gonna find the guy. And she's just like, okay, but I really don't like these phone calls.
Yeah.
She like pretty much just tells him, I am legitimately uncomfortable listening to this guy, and that's why I keep hanging up. It's very human, and I appreciated that little tidbit that they put in there.
Oh, I also love those two hunting dudes who show up at the house with the guns.
They were great,
and they're just like
just trying to help,
just knocking door to door. Watch out for creepy dudes tonight. And they're like, okay.
I love when
meanwhile he's like
opening the door, keeps blocking the door as they're trying to close it. It's great.
And at one point, like his gun kind of like drops down and it's like pointed at her, like by accident. You're kind of like, dude.
You can tell he's like, are these the people that are gonna help save the day?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. And either way, all of that gets to that climax that we already talked about where Peter, the sort of really aggressive, seemingly possibly violent boyfriend, comes into the basement. She knows the killer's in the house, and Peter happens to be just outside the house trying to make his way in.
And this is after she gets in the basement after she's been chased by the killer.
Yes.
And so she automatically assumes whoever is looking for her through the window is the killer because he was just looking for her. So all these connections just don't bode well for Peter.
No, and she even says out loud to the audience and to herself, she's like, I know that it's not him. I know because the first murders happened before I could have possibly set him off.
Right.
But all of the evidence, filmmaking wise, is screaming at you like he wants to hurt you.
Yeah, it really is.
And we get this really, really sad image where finally all of the cops make it to the house and they get inside and they find her on the ground, all bloodied up and hurt, and with Peter's body dead, stabbed to death on top of her.
Yeah.
And we kind of put the rest together from there. And we're kind of left at the last minute with she ends up okay. I guess physically.
Yeah.
We don't know about mentally or emotionally.
I'm sure there's some things going on.
Yeah.
She just killed the person
but
that she
the most
loves.
bizarre thing is this final shot in the house that kind of like it's kind of like moving out of the house and like zooming out, and again it does resemble that Halloween finale where it's these really mundane shots of the space of the house.
Yeah.
But we just saw what that space was filled with, so we're waiting for it. We're looking for it. We it's implying it's still out there.
Yep. And I love the zoom in to like from the girl's face in the bag just to the house, so that almost while you're watching the suburban house come to full view, all you can focus on is that attic window where there's two dead bodies in there.
Because it's like a close-up of her and it zooms out slowly, revealing the entire house.
And then the phone call.
And then the cop standing outside who just left the girl in her room. Like, she's alone in that house with a cop outside the house.
Just guarding it.
And that dead body's still in the attic.
Yep. And he's in the attic.
You
assume.
Yeah, with the bag on her head. And the final shot is just this huge wide shot where the camera has told you focus on the dead body that you can see from it. Like if someone was walking on the sidewalk passing the house, if they knew what to look for, they could just see a dead body in the house.
Oh, hell yeah.
And like you don't get more overt than that. This really gorgeous house covered in snow and Christmas lights.
Yeah, it looks
with a dead body in it that you can see. And like that is like a perfect visual summation of this
film. And it's the first shot that the movie starts with too.
Of the house.
The house. It's the very first thing. So you go from the opening shot of Christmas music and just nice choir music and the shot of
beautiful house covered in snow and Christmas lights.
Party. People haven't fought each other yet. All this great stuff. And then the last shot is the exact same thing, but you've now known you've seen all these things.
And your brain is infected by the presence of like evil and death that resides inside that house, and that you can actually still see it. From
And then another great thing was when the phone rings, you can see the cop kind of like,
look,
should I go and answer that phone call?
Don't fucking answer it.
And it's just like, and then credits, and you're just left with nothing was resolved and everything's worse.
Yeah.
And it's horrific. Yeah. Absolutely horrific. Another thing just before we wrap up, I loved his piano part, Peter's piano part.
Oh, yeah?
I thought it expressed like a tormented soul. I don't know if you noticed the piano, but it's very dark. It's like in a minor key. There's a lot of flats and like just, it's very dark. And especially for a Christmas movie, so I was like, it's kind of showing the torment moody of him, through his music in that scene.
Well, and I also heard that's a very expensive piano, like a Steinway piano or something like that.
So when he smashes that bad boy, son of a bitch.
He's feeling something real for sure.
When he busts the $10,000 piano.
All right. Well, I think we're going to enter the reductive rating round on this one. For me, it's a really high 4. This I understand. I actually almost can't believe that this was critically reviled when it came out.
Yeah, you're wrong.
Yeah, it was. And I mean, maybe we have the benefit of hindsight on us. Maybe if I saw what's a modern day, I guess this is just it. Is we're missing the modern day Black Christmases because they're going direct to video right now. I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe 30 years from now, people will be like, "Wow, you liked Black Christmas, but you didn't like Silent."
Yeah, you guys are scum.
You didn't like. Oh shit! What did I just get told was a real movie? Oh, From Dusk Till Dawn 3, like the direct to video sequel. That's right.
Oh my God.
That exists. So maybe 30 years from now when they're making a podcast, they'll be like, that's an underrated cult classic.
And they'll call us out and be like, these fucking idiots didn't even know.
Yeah. Either way, it still kind of shocks me that, people couldn't see the genuine, despite the fact that this obviously has some pretty ludicrously violent material for 1974, that they couldn't see the craft on display here with such a minimal budget. It's so moody, and again, the kills are such almost show reels in like style and murder, which really separate themselves from the rest of the film. That like they're almost showing off. So you feel like people would have been like, that was a really well made movie. And not to mention it feels very icky after you finish watching it, which is, for some people that's just a detriment. People don't like to feel that way when they watch movies sometimes. So that could be.
That's pretty much what this show is. So we love it.
That's why we started the show. I fucking love that shit.
Exactly. Make me feel offended and gross.
So yeah, basically for all the reasons that we've already stated, it's super moody. It actually is thematically thorny, and the way that it uses psychology uses you psychologically to make you feel very uneasy and paranoid about the larger presence of evil that exists just beneath our own surface dress up that we play at the holidays. Is very interesting, and it feels kind of strange that this again isn't a riff on the slasher, that it is one of the originals, because I feel like you would watch this later and you'd be like, oh, it's like a slasher, but it's Christmas, and you're like, no, this came out before the slashers.
You just assume it'd be the Halloween, that's where the murders happen. Halloween, it's scary, but no, one of the original slashers was a Christmas genre film.
Yeah, and you would think that it would use that premise ironically, and it doesn't. It takes it full, really, really
takes
seriously.
Advantage of those themes, and uses them for the horror. It's
again, I fucking love that shit. I don't know why, because Christmas is very normal for me. I don't have a brutal family or something like that makes me feel sad and lonely at Christmas time. But I think it's a very evocative and a thing that you really feel is the idea of this very flamboyant commercial holiday season where you force everyone is forced to be happy,
right?
When there's really, really bad things that happen to people, and people don't always feel that way. Exactly. So again, things like Batman Returns, things like Eyes Wide Shut, which I didn't bring up, which I will bring up here in the closing statements. Eyes Wide Shut uses the exact same kind of Christmas light glow.
And
you're
right.
And that actually Eyes Wide Shut was specifically shot by Kubrick and his cinematographer to not use any unnatural lighting or so like staged lighting. He didn't want light setups.
Very cool.
He wanted to use the glow of the Christmas lights, which
it creates a dreamscape like no other. Like
exactly. Eyes Wide Shut is a completely fluid, dreamy film. And the way that it uses Christmas lights is a huge part of that. And it was just awesome to see it also done 25 years earlier.
This time it's just like dirtier. It's just grittier a little.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Eyes Wide Shut gets into some dirty shit, but you know what I mean? I guess it's more violent than Eyes Wide Shut.
Eyes Wide Shut is more violent in its implications.
Yes.
You don't actually see any violence happen on screen.
You just assume like what is happening with this society.
This sex cult is definitely killing people, and I'm just going to pretend that I didn't see it. I'm just
gonna go back to doing it.
Yep.
Exactly.
Exactly. But yeah, for you.
It's a 4. Honestly, I think I'm going to give it the old probably going to be a 5 rating.
Yeah.
I think what it is when I watched it and I realized how directly this influenced Halloween, I almost feel like I can't give it a 4. Like I'm gonna do it now just because I feel like I want to give that rewatch like I always.
But you feel like if you gave Halloween a 5, like how can you not give this a 5?
Right, because I just feel like the only thing that's missing from this film, in my opinion, that Halloween doesn't have, or that Halloween does have, is the iconic score. Because it does lack a like memorable score, but it does use the Christmas music in a very good way.
I will say too, if I had any knock against this movie at all, and it's a minor one, sure. I did feel this one's length a little bit more than I feel Halloween's length.
I will admit that there are small moments of dull. I will admit that. Whereas Halloween,
the weird thing is that I bet you if I watched the movie again, I couldn't even pinpoint what I would cut. This movie is very deliberate.
Some of the cop stuff I would cut now that I think about it.
It's deliberately slower and subtle in a way that I guess I'm not used to seeing from slasher movies anymore, which will be funny when we get into Silent Night, Deadly Night, which, for example, I did not have a problem with that movie's length at all. No. Because that movie just freaking rockets shit at you.
Yeah, rocket ship. Absolutely. So I think it might get the 5 on the rewatch just because I'm honestly, my brain compares this to Halloween, so it's hard for me to not do it. But for now, I'm gonna give it the 4. And Bob Clark, you are now the king of Christmas for me. So well done, sir.
Yeah, if anyone wants to check out more Bob Clark, I'd have to recommend his movie Death Dream, which is the other big beyond, because he did a lot of other movies like Porky's and A Christmas Story and stuff like
Porky's?
that. He did Porky's too, yeah.
Holy shit.
No wonder it feels like Porky's, right?
Yeah. What a mix this guy's had.
But the same year as Black Christmas,
he
also released Death Dream or Dead of Night, which is actually a Vietnam horror movie.
Okay.
Which has nothing, it doesn't take place at all in Vietnam. It is about this family who hears that there's like the child, the son of the family, died in Vietnam. And then like a week later, he returns home. Oh, and they're like, dude, we thought you were like fucking dead.
Yeah.
And what it kind of has happened to him is that obviously he's been changed by the war, but he's been changed by the war almost into just like a very like impulsive, murderous, like zombie is kind of what he's been turned into. And it turns into a slasher where everyone's just like, oh man, I got to treat the vet like with respect. And then like, he's a hitchhiker. I'll give him a ride. Thanks for your service, bro. And he's brought with him sort of just like the violence that he carried out over there. He's brought home with him.
That sounds fascinating.
And as far as like Vietnam, like horror movies go, it reminded me of like what if Michael, like if Michael Myers served in Vietnam is kind of like what it's like.
Holy shit.
And that's what it feels like. And it's really, really sad to watch his story with the parents. Because again, Bob Clark just has this really thorny thing about him where you feel emotional stuff about the horror, which really always does benefit the horror.
He seems to do characters really well.
Yeah. But watching these parents who are like, our murderous zombie child is like killing the community, but they're like, he's our son. Like, we love our son. So like they're still like wrestling with that.
Yeah, that sounds fascinating.
And it's awesome. So check that out if you can. Either way, that's Black Christmas. That's a 4 for both of us. We went a little long on that one, but we're gonna
worth it.
It was worth it. We're gonna be right back, and we're gonna be talking Silent Night, Deadly Night, Christmas slasher from 10 years later.
Punish.
Don't watch out.
You've made it through Halloween. Now try and survive Christmas. Silent Night. Deadly Night.
All right, we are back, and we are talking Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Oh, yeah.
The 1984 American slasher film directed by Charles E. Zeller Jr.
Great name.
And starring Robert Brian Wilson and a few other people that I've never heard of. But pretty. I wouldn't say the most memorable performances, but pretty fun. You know what? Okay, I'm just gonna dive right in. I'm gonna dive right into this one. So, what this is missing right away, I'm just gonna say this up front. What this doesn't have that Black Christmas offered, and the reason I think most people kind of feel more negative towards this film is it doesn't quite have the same visual skill and mood that Bob Clark has.
Sure.
It has a low budget, kind of blander kind of coverage to it, but in that kind of charming exploitation way that we kind of like to talk about. Like it's like
absolutely.
So that's kind of what it has going for it. So I wouldn't say it's the most
'cause it still has some great like camera angles and stuff. I remember
it's got some cool shot choices, and it's got a few moments that are really, really well edited, but I would say overall it's just missing like that cohesive mood.
Yeah.
And that kind of atmosphere, and that really like
it does seem a bit
this whole
sporadic.
thing is a very coherent thing. This is a lot choppier, a lot shaggier.
Because they want to do everything from like these like crazy sex romp things like with the girl that's making out with the guy on the pool table to crazy religious punishment through the nuns to making that an allegory for Santa Claus himself to it's all over the place. So
but what this does have, and the reason, because I will say when I first started watching the movie I was like, oh okay, I kind of get why people think this is worse than Black Christmas. But what it does have going for it, and what was revealed probably in the first 15 minutes of the movie to me,
the trash,
is this has one amazing joke that it mines for 80 minutes. And that is, what if Santa was a fucking raping murderer?
And I'm on board, folks. I'm on board.
And it's really funny.
It's great. It's fantastic.
And the image of seeing Santa Claus rob people, shoot people, rape people, strangle people,
all while saying naughty and punish,
viciously gun them down in front of orphans and getting gunned down.
2 Santa Clauses are shot in front of orphans. You know, like it's a bad day when Santa gets shot in front of you and you're 6, but 2 Santa Clauses get shot in the same day.
And what I will say, and I was completely shocked by, is missing in a lot of, because I guess this is the thing, is I don't like to read a lot before I go into a movie, but I generally have a general idea of what people I like and what people I know think of movies. And I will say that almost across the board, this movie had exclusively like
2s and 3s.
Like 3s and 2s pretty much when I was looking at it. And I gotta say, what the fuck, guys?
Yeah, come on. I thought you liked trash. I thought that's what we were here for. This is it.
Yeah, and this is honestly
top-notch trash.
This is it's not as character considered as Black Christmas is, and psychologically considered in that kind of like respectfully, really skillful way.
Sure,
but it is not uninteresting.
No, and I think it makes compelling points. I mean, it simplifies it to the point of just like, punishment and niceness.
But like, I do think it's genuinely thorny. I do think it's interesting.
I also love that contrast between like there's a reason they make them nuns. There's a reason they make it a religious thing, and then you have Santa Claus.
And that Christmas is a distinctly Christian holiday,
right? And it's got that same vibe, with God, it's heaven or hell. With Santa, it's
naughty or nice
or coal. He lowers it down. Not this movie. Santa goes straight to murder if you're naughty. But it's I love that that kind of comparison. I thought that was great.
And it actually makes a really compelling case for the psychological breakdown of the main character.
Yeah.
Because
they go through like a few years of his life,
both
like different
narratively
eras.
and filmically, like you understand what the fuck is happening to this child's head. And the filming gets you really into it because it opens with this scene where he's driving with his parents. He's got this nice American back roads. They're driving around being like, it's Christmas. The kid might as well be named Bobby. Is he actually named Bobby? I'm going to look that up.
Billy.
Same thing.
Yeah, it is. Might as well be Bobby. Billy.
Blonde-haired American boy named Billy. And they tell him, as they were just like, he's like, I want to stay up and see Santa. And they were like, well, you can't see Santa because that would be naughty. That's naughty, sir.
Can't be doing that. Cole.
And they go and they have this really ominous visit with like the granddad. Who's like really, really out of it until the parents go away, and he's like, fucking everything sucks.
By the way, Santa's a fucking murderer. He's gonna rape you. You're like, damn, Gramps.
Yeah. Jesus. Meanwhile, though, a dude dressed as Santa robs a gas station for like $10.
$30. Kills a man in cold blood for $30 in a pack of smokes.
Yeah, guns him down. And either way, I was not prepared for the murder to happen that fast. Watching Santa just gun down this like what do they call gas station clerk or whatever, I was like,
and the beauty of it is there's no real connection to why he's dressed as Santa. He just kind of, it's like, it's the holidays. If I'm gonna rob someone, why dress in black? I'll dress as Santa. Like, I don't know, maybe
he's one of those dudes at the mall who has like kids get on his lap or whatever, and then all of a sudden he's like, that's not paying the bills.
Yeah, exactly.
But then we get this scene where they've left the old folks' home, left the grandpa behind. They're driving home. Christmas Eve, they see Santa pulled over on the side of the road, the guy who just robbed the gas station. He's pretending that his car is broken down, and the kids see Santa, and they were like, hey, Billy, do you want to see Santa? And he's like, no, that would be naughty. Like, I can't see Santa.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Santa pulls a gun on the two parents.
Yep.
Straight up murders
just shoots the dad right away.
Pulls the mom out of the car, rips her blouse open, exposes...
it's like he doesn't do anything other than that. He just wanted to humiliate her.
Yeah,
it's like he's
just
such a piece of garbage.
Sexual humiliation.
Yeah.
Where her breasts are completely exposed while he's killing her. I guess he slits her throat, I think is what he does.
Yeah, that's revealed later.
And the little boy has escaped into the field kind of in the background while this is all happening. And he is watching, his first experience with seeing Santa is watching Santa brutally murder and sexually assault his parents.
Yep.
And immediately smash cut to Christian home for orphan children.
What's great about this cut too is there's like a ton of demented synth crazy music going on, and then right when it cuts to the choir wherever it's going, it turns into gospel music. Right away, and you're like, you don't know how to feel.
You associate those two things together
you're like,
very quickly. And it's amazing because now that he's in an orphan home specifically run by nuns, the nuns are forcing him to repress his memories of that traumatizing event because he's drawing pictures of it. He's very clearly still tormented psychologically by that experience. And I mean, who wouldn't be? You're a child. You just watched Santa, this fucking mythological, amazingly awesome dude that everyone loves. And despite the fact that he murdered your parents, everybody still loves.
Yeah.
And everyone around you still wants to see Santa and hang out with Santa. And so you're deeply fucked up.
Yeah. witnessing this man and trying to get on his lap is not something you want to do.
Right. So the way that this relates to Santa as this commercial idea, this commercial myth that everybody loves and is taught to love at a young age.
Yeah.
And reconciling that with his experience with a guy dressed as Santa, that obviously he's not old enough to realize that that's maybe just a guy who abused that image. He's like, no, that's Santa.
Yeah.
And so not only is he still dealing with that, but in this orphanage, he witnesses his first act of actual sex happening between two people living in the orphanage. And he sees these two people having sex, and it's cutting between the images of the girl's breasts and them, consensually having sex with images of Santa sexually assaulting his mother.
Right. So he's instantly making connections that sex is just bad, basically.
Well, he's doing that his brain is naturally doing that.
Yeah.
And then you think that he might be able to be taught out of that, to be like, no, you don't understand. Like, sex can be consensual, and these people aren't doing that.
But then we have a nun.
Then we have the nun who comes in, because he's looking through
He's
looking through the keyhole, which actually does resemble the bit of the eye with the Black Christmas too.
Yeah.
A lot of keyhole stalker stuff in a lot of these films that we talk about.
The watchful eye.
But the nun comes up, and the nun starts spanking the shit out of both him for being a voyeur and and punishing the two people who were obviously having sex under her roof,
which is consensual sex, by the way.
Yep.
So it's not like a punishment for an assault or something like that. This girl just sees two people that really dig each other, and that's wrong.
Yep. And calls it naughty.
Yep.
Which he immediately relates to seeing
Santa.
the same way that Santa deems people naughty, and that his mom said was naughty.
Yeah. It's pretty intricate for a trashy exploitation
that's just
movie.
It, is that the writing here is
pretty good.
Is actually not bad
at
all.
I think it's very good for what this is and what it's trying to be.
I was
smart.
I was honestly pretty thoroughly impressed by
their connections without making it insulting. Because you could make this a little too
on
offensive,
the nose,
I think, or maybe or on the nose. And I think they do a great job of all these different comparisons to religion and Christmas and all this, and then his deep rooted
both
need to be good. And
traumatic repression and sexual repression, which we eventually get into, because now at this point he's had ingrained in him that both being naughty deserves punishment, and punishment equals violence.
Yeah, it's always physical.
And being naughty is not just murder and rape. Being naughty is also just sex, which is a very Christian aspect, or sex out of wedlock, I guess would be the main thing. It's a very, again, now he's being told that just sex deserves violent punishment is kind of what he's been programmed to believe at that point.
Yeah.
And basically just through circumstance and through actual I guess is it parenting? It's not really parenting.
It's the nuns trying their best. I guess they call it nurturing. Nature versus nurture.
Sure. It's the nurturing aspect.
Yeah.
But then what we kind of see is all of the nuns welcoming Santa into the orphanage and trying to force him on his lap.
Yeah.
And that's not going well. He punches, this 10-year-old punches the shit
what
out of
a left
Santa.
hook, by the way.
Yeah.
This Santa flies off. This kid.
Oh, dude, and that nose sprays blood. It's great.
Yeah, he's just swinging. That was a great sequence.
But then we cut to kind of 10 years later. He's 18 or 19 or 20 or something. He's in his teens now.
Working in retail.
So
already he's going to lose his mind.
There's this very adorable work montage of him being we're going to get you a job. And they're like, we don't need a guy. And they're like, yeah, but you'll like this guy. And they're like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he's picking up boxes and he's clocking. There's a montage of him
wholesome.
Clocking in.
It's so wholesome. It's unbelievably wholesome. It's upbeat, montage music. It's that cliche 80s montage. It's beautiful.
Yep. And you feel like he's successfully repressed both his trauma and his understanding of sex.
Yeah.
But then a Santa gets brought into the department store, obviously.
Yeah.
And that kind of, flat gives him some memories of Santa's attack on his parents. But then also, and one of the most fascinating aspects of this, he likes a girl.
Mm-hmm.
He likes a girl that he works with, and he genuinely likes her.
Yeah.
And he has a dream that he wants to have sex with her because he likes her.
Right.
And in that dream, Santa fucking stabs the shit out of him for having sex.
Yeah. So it's not exactly a promising mind that this guy has for the healthy attitude towards sex.
No, he has immediately associated sex with violence and punishment, even against himself, and that Santa is the sort of the method.
Yeah.
Yep. He's the deliverer of justice.
Santa is God.
Yep. He's going to come get you for being naughty.
That's right.
And shortly after that, he has he sees the girl that he's into being assaulted, or at least very aggressively hit on and eventually assaulted by another coworker who is kind of like a dude who's...
Seems like he's like the manager, not the head, but like the assistant guy.
Yeah, and just kind of
seems
a
like
dick.
Because he seems like he sounds anyway. He talks to Billy like he has authority over him, so I just assume. Yeah, and he could just be an
I'm
asshole.
like, what are you mad about Billy? Like, he clocks in, he picks up boxes. Like, we all saw that montage, you know?
That guy's a hard worker.
Yeah. And
It was
and sometimes he drops boxes, but he learns his lesson next time. You know, like he picks up the slack.
Exactly.
So clearly, you just got shit with Billy, and that's your problem. And
now this is after, because he hasn't gotten his outfit yet, right?
No, I don't think so.
Santa cancels, and I believe that's why he has to put on the Santa outfit.
Oh, right. No, yeah, that does happen before this.
Right.
Yeah, because they put him in the Santa.
So he's become the very like the judge that he thinks Santa is. You know, he is now the judge, jury, and executioner, quite literally.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So he takes his role as Santa, the deliberator of punishment, very well seriously, said. And that all of that psychology kind of comes back, and all of a sudden, the image of Santa has been infected by all of this by him. Yeah. But now he is the image of Santa.
Right.
So now that's been infected by that.
And meanwhile, you're in a retail store filled with Santa Clauses that they constantly use as imagery for this like evil being. All of a sudden, like when you see a dead body eventually, there's always a pan to a animatronic Santa Claus that isn't even Billy, it's just Santa. So your brain just constantly connects death with Santa Claus all the time for 80 minutes.
Which is not only, which I will say, a great joke.
It's awesome.
And also...
it never gets old. I loved seeing it every time.
and also, it's the exact same thing that Bob Clark was trying to do with Black Christmas, because his thing was, he's just like, I wanted to take something festive and something sort of like commercial and associated with happiness, and I wanted to mind the irony of what if that was horrifying. And this does the exact same thing consistently all the time. And it gets really, really thorny. Because again, this is thorny so far, but it gets even thornier.
Yeah, because even the kills get gorier. Everything expands as this film goes on.
Well, because he sees the girl that he likes at first, possibly having sex with another dude. Yeah. And then obviously he already associates sex with naughtiness and punishment.
Right. And then he hears her legitimately say, no, I don't want
And then
this.
It turns into rape.
Yeah.
And then he associates that with, well, Santa raped my
mom, so fuck this guy.
Yeah. So he, first of all, instant 2 stars minimum, as we agreed on the last episode of the show.
Someone was hung with lights that are Christmas lights. So.
I honestly wasn't convinced it was going to happen, but Jamie called it. Jamie called it
I'm
on
so
the show.
Happy.
He said someone in one of these 2 movies is going to die by strangling by Christmas lights.
Thank you, Silent Night, Deadly Night.
And it happened in this movie, so
happy.
Minimum, it earned those 2 stars.
Yeah, absolutely. So, minor spoiler, there's at least a 2-star on this film.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure you'll guess it's going to be more than that.
Yeah, he strangles the shit out of the managing rapist with Christmas lights. Great shot of his feet shaking, and then his neck bleeding from the Christmas lights, and obviously again the glow of the Christmas lights lighting up his strangled face, which is just a great image. But immediately afterward, he turns to her and he's just like, yeah, you deserve death too.
You had sex too.
Because you had sex.
And I know that it's bad.
Yeah, exactly. So he stabs the shit out of her and kills her as well.
So he doesn't exactly have a gauge for, who he's going to kill based on what. He's just kind of like, you've been naughty, I'm going to kill you no matter what.
And what's
brutally, it doesn't matter.
What truly is amazing about watching this film is by the time we got to that scene is that would just be a pure exploitative trash moment.
Yeah.
But they've built a pretty solid psychological foundation for why he feels and thinks that way, right? Yeah. So it's not.
It doesn't seem cruel for the sake of being cruel.
Here's a point of comparison. Because, and not necessarily in a negative way, because we also really enjoyed this movie. Okay. But Pieces very cynically sets up not the headspace of the killer, because the killer's kind of a bit of a mystery for that film.
Right.
And it very much is just like, well, his mom did a puzzle thing, and then he chopped his mom up, so therefore he wants to kill women and make them into a puzzle.
Yeah.
And you're just like, okay, well, I mean,
sure.
Logically, I guess that tracks, sort of.
Yeah. But there's a small connection.
But here, I was pretty psychologically convinced that he was making decisions that made sense to me.
Yeah, me too. At least within the this universe, you know what I mean?
Like I was like, I wouldn't.
I mean, I'm not a
that.
Psychologist. I don't fucking know how it actually works. But when you lay these rules out in a film like this, that worked perfectly.
Yeah, no, and I was just like, they actually put solid effort both in the narrative and the filmmaking to make this track.
Yeah.
And the only place this really gets lost is kind of when we pivot into the second half and he does just kind of go on a murderous rampage.
A little bit, yeah.
Some of the, and I mean, it is just, he's punishing people for being naughty, which is really the main established idea.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
I don't think he kills anyone he kills innocent people, but he doesn't kill innocent people to his standards. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't just choose somebody that he sees and murders them like Michael Myers or something like that. Yeah,
based on the myth of Santa Claus and based on his very fundamentalist Christian upbringing, he has a pretty low tolerance
for naughty.
For naughty, yeah. And he has a pretty...
Consensual making out is enough for this guy to just lose his mind.
And he has I'll say a pretty high standard for what it constitutes as punishment.
Yeah, that's true. The murders are far worse than a lot of the crimes, I will say.
And I will say that even in this aspect of the film, though, it's incredibly entertaining.
But that's what makes it work, because he's such a tormented guy at this point. Like, you're not watching Billy anymore. This dude is just a mass murdering Santa Claus.
Yeah, because as we get into the second half, we got to track some of these murders, because as it pivots into a slasher, there's some good slasher kills in this.
The deer one is so gross.
Yeah, where he takes the naked girl who's having sex, so of course she has to die.
Yeah.
Yep. And he immediately throws her, or I guess picks her up.
Yeah, and Texas Chainsaw style.
And Texas Chainsaw meat hooks her on some reindeer.
On deer antlers.
Yeah, antlers.
Damn, man. And they show it like...
Very festive.
It's definitely great ornament.
Yeah.
They even show it, like they have that insanely disgusting shot of the rib cage and the pokers going through the ribs.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's... They go for it in some of these gore effects, I gotta say.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, we got to talk about the best gore effect, the sled kill.
Oh, so good.
One of my favorite kills we've talked about on the show.
Yeah, and they even add a little bit of dark humor to it. Like, just to, because a lot of the other kills are mostly just kills, and they just feel like murders. This one, the sled one, is legitimately funny.
There's a gag. There's a physical gore gag to it, right?
It's so good.
Which is awesome, because these kids are riding down the sleds down the hill, and they steal the sleds, right? Is what they do. That's why they're naughty. That's why they deserve to be punished.
Yeah, one of my favorite things, it's not even important, but the two kids that get the sled stolen from them, I love when the kid's spacing out, and the guy asks him, he's like, "Are you having a religious experience?" Like, it's just the best thing to say to somebody spacing out. But yeah, so then they get their sleds taken by, I assume, the older kids at their high school. They kind of seem like teenagers. That's the vibe I got from these kids. It's very juvenile. Like I'm going to steal your sled, you know?
Bitch, what I mean? And then I'm going to have fun with the sled.
Yeah, then I'm going to go sledding with it. Like, it's like, okay, 15-year-old kid. It's
very cool.
Yeah, it's so badass. Oh, man.
Yeah, and the kids are sledding
down the hill. And was it worth it? Was it worth
it? Yeah, not really, because while the kids are sledding down the hill, the first kid goes down, and he's like, woo, fun.
Killing it.
And the second kid goes down the hill, Billy, dressed as Santa, pops
Comes
out
out
from
of nowhere.
behind the tree, has an axe, and slices the dude's head clean off. And now we don't see the head come off, but what we see is a cut shot to the body, the headless corpse
on the sled,
sitting in the same position, sledding its way down to his friend, where his friend's like, yeah, come on, man.
Do it, man.
Sledding is so cool. And then he's like, oh shit, that's
a headless body.
That's a headless body. And then 2 seconds later, the head
rolls
down the hill.
And like, it sounds cruel maybe from why we're talking about it, but it is hilarious.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
It's pretty gruesome.
And I love how he yells
funny.
punish before each kill. Like he becomes like a Santa Claus murdering robot that just has like 2 phrases. It's basically naughty and punish.
Punish.
It's so
Punish.
funny. Punish. And you know what? This was actually a genuinely scary moment in a way for me. It's one of the only like real kind of terrifying moments, and it's mostly just because it's how I think about it. It's that sequence where he kills the babysitters, and then the little girl is like, Santa, is that you? Or whatever. And I'm like, oh, you about to murder a child? And then he instead is really nice to her by giving her a bloody X-Acto knife as a Christmas present because she's been a good girl. She hasn't been naughty. So he gives her a weapon as a present. And then he just walks off. And she's just left with that memory of Santa Claus. And then it's hilarious because the girl, as he leaves the house, you hear her go, Chelsea? As if it's like the babysitter name. Yeah. And and then that's it. So you know that this girl, her only memory when she's like 20 is going to be like this.
Santa
look back and
Santa gave me a bloody knife and killed my
babysitter. Like, it's just like
we've just created another
it's just like nonstop. It's
another Billy is coming.
I thought it was actually pretty scary in a way, psychologically.
Yeah, no, me too. Well, especially because she's like, did you bring me a present?
Right.
And he's like,
yeah, this bloody murder weapon.
Have you been good?
Yeah. You haven't been naughty. And he asked her like 3 times. It's not like he doesn't just believe her. It looks like he's got to push her a little. She really needs to make her case.
Yeah. And yeah, well, that's just it. Is that some of these kills are funny, but again, the psychological case they make for why this gruesomeness is happening. Because again, the joke is that all of this is Santa Claus, which is just an inherently funny idea. But the actual case that the movie makes is pretty gruesome and a little scary.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially when all of a sudden Santa's on a murder spree now. All the cops are getting radioed.
Billy is not a thing anymore.
Being like, fucking Santa's killing people.
Shoot on sight. That's literally what they say. Yeah. And boy, do they ever.
Yeah, because we get one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah, unbelievable.
That completely taken out of context would just blow people's minds. And even if you don't end up watching this movie, which I still would recommend watching the whole movie, please watch this scene. I posted it on Twitter.
Yeah.
Watch this scene.
It's out of context, it might be even more hilarious.
It is almost more hilarious out of context. Because you're watching Santa approach the orphanage, because they're driving to the orphanage being like, Billy's obviously going to come and probably exact vengeance on the orphanage and the nuns.
Right.
Especially Mother Suspiria, or Mother Suspiria. I'm thinking of fucking Suspiria. Yeah. She's Mother Suspiria.
Twist. She's a witch also this whole time.
She's Mother Superior is what she is. She's the head mother or whatever. And there's a guy dressed as Santa approaching the orphanage being like, hi, kids, because it's fucking Christmas. So of course there's Santa Clauses all around.
I think a really smart part of this, though, is that even now you kind of know that it probably might not be Billy or whatever.
Yeah.
But they
don't show you that it isn't Billy.
Yeah, they don't show the guy like pulling up to the car, like in a car or anything. They just show him walking into the courtyard. So you've already established
from a wide shot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you've already established that Santa is meaning business right now.
Yeah.
So all you see is a wide shot of Santa. You're thinking that could be the killer, and then the movie, tricks you into that, and then the cop is also tricked and assumes a little too early. He really jumps the gun, quite literally. And kills Santa in front of like 15 orphans.
Well, yeah, and the way that it's edited is like unbearable, because he's like, oh my God, he's getting out of the car. He's like, don't don't touch him. And the little kids, the little look on their faces where they're like, oh my God, it's Santa.
Just huge
Santa,
smiles.
I want to shake your hand. And Santa's coming out being like, yeah, let's shake hands.
Yeah.
And the cop guns him in the back
like
3
4
times.
times, yeah.
And the most genius touch is the blood sprays onto the kid's face and onto his snow coat and onto his scarf. And just the shot of this completely shocked kid covered in Santa's blood.
Fucking awesome. It's so metal.
An amazing image of this poor little
Holy
orphan
hell.
covered in Santa's blood and
Yeah.
this close-up of Santa's corpse.
How do you people not like this movie?
I don't
Like,
get
it's-
it.
it's
I honestly don't
unbelievable.
get it. I want to hear people's case against this because, like, other than the fact,
I guarantee most of it's just like it's just stupid. Or
yeah, people
something.
think it's bad. Maybe,
Yeah,
I don't.
maybe.
I don't know. I think it's doing all of this intentionally
Me too.
and doing it
100%.
very well.
Yes, 100%.
You know, maybe it could have been more visually compelling and better made if
Sure.
if it had a better budget.
But they even try with the budget. There's some great shots in here,
Mm-hmm.
like the one where the cop finally, like I think Santa knocks that cop into down the stairs in the cellar.
Oh, yeah.
And then they do that really cool zoom into the stairs, like
Mm-hmm.
it shows Santa on the side looking down, and it's just smooth. I think it's on like a steady cam or a
Yeah.
track, or what are they called? A trolley? Is that what it's called?
Something like that.
Where
yeah.
it's like on a track. Well, it's very steady. And
Oh,
like
dolly,
the way
dolly.
a dolly, that's what I'm looking for. And it's very steady, and then like kind of angles down to show the body and stuff.
yeah.
And like there's some some good filmmaking.
Well, yeah,
in here
and,
for
and
sure.
I mean the psychological editing of a lot of the experiences
like,
that he's
like
having.
the
so,
Santa
like-
Claus splicing, like where it's like a murdered body and then an animatronic Santa, and then
Yeah.
like you just constantly have Santa and death. It's just
Yeah, and the
over
way
and
that
over
he's
again.
merging also sex and death, and
Yeah.
the way that he's merging like sex and naughtiness and punishment and violence all into this giant sphere of like just confusion and impulse.
And just even added things with the religious aspect, because then later you find out that the guy that was dressed up as that Santa was a priest.
yeah.
So not only did you kill Santa, you killed a man of God.
Yep.
It's just like, good Lord.
Yep.
What a
and
day
then,
for
and
these
then,
kids.
Eventually, he makes his way into the actual orphanage where he confronts the Mother Superior. Superior. Oh my god.
We love that movie.
Fucking
That's
yeah,
what it is.
Jesus. And he is viciously gunned down in front of a bunch of orphans.
Yeah, twice.
Yep.
Well, it's Santa twice, obviously.
And then the
different
big implication is that one of those orphans just watched Santa gunned down and is probably going to become another
Naughty.
Billy. Naughty.
people. Well, that one kid, he
Yeah.
does. He like sets him up. He just looks at him blank, scared, and goes.
Well, because he's
naughty.
Billy's younger brother, right? Is the thing? or
Oh,
something like
right.
that?
I forgot about that.
Something like that.
Or is that set up in this first one? Because I know they set that up in the sequel.
Oh, maybe
But I didn't
not.
know if they. Because I know you watched the sequel.
I did watch
so
the
maybe,
sequel.
I don't know. If
Oh
they-
my god, it's completely terrible.
That's what I heard.
It's
It
50
wasn't
minutes.
even a 2 for you though. Like it
No.
was. So it's not
No.
entertaining. Is that what it is?
I wanted
'Cause
it to be.
That's the one that goes like garbage day or
Yeah.
whatever, right?
I
Is that
honestly-
the only part that's good?
Yes.
Oh, that's disappointing.
There's
I hate that.
and yeah, it's
Because then you're like waiting for an hour and a half movie of shit is bad, but you're waiting for like the one genuinely funny, stupid
yeah,
moment.
you wait like an hour 15 for that moment, and
that sucks.
And the first 45 to 50 minutes is just this really bad actor recounting the events of the first movie. And
I heard they even use a lot of archival footage.
yeah,
and
no,
stuff.
it's just footage from the first movie.
Jesus.
Like I'd say 85% of the first half of the movie is just footage from the first movie.
Is it just like recapping the end?
No, it's
basically?
recapping the whole movie.
What the fuck? You're a sequel, right? There's already been an established film. Oh my god, that's insane.
Yeah, and then finally
I
when
thought it was so bad it's good.
no,
That sucks.
finally when they get past that stuff and they get to the stuff, I was like, oh god, finally we're getting
Some
into this is
entertainment.
going to be fun.
Yeah.
And there's maybe 2 or 3 moments of so bad it's good.
Ugh.
And they
That's
they
disappointing.
last about 30 seconds, and they're mostly because the guy is just giving an all-timer terrible performance.
So that's funny to watch.
And like, yeah, but that's just kind of it. Like it's not
And it's
bad
not-
in that fun. Like it's
And
almost.
I don't want to
it's-
compare,
it's-
like, say someone like Nick Cage, because I don't think he's bad. He does a lot of off the wall things that you might not understand, so it
Yeah.
could be funny, and it's not like that.
No,
at
it's
all.
not.
Oh, okay.
Like it's.
I love Nick Cage. I'm
I
not
wanted it to
insulting
be
this
that.
man.
and I couldn't do it. I had to won that movie. Like it's actually one of the only times I've ever for'd and then won the sequel.
Yeah, for real.
Like usually it drops like a star or two or something, but like I couldn't do it, man.
I was shocked when I saw the 1, because I was just expecting the 2. I was expecting some fun in there and just to enjoy yourself, whatever. But a 1 sucks because now you know like the majority of it's just terrible.
I saw our patron Steve Carlson's review of that, and I had to completely agree with him. Is that it?
Oh, he gave it the 1 as well.
He was like, what was it like? Even the stuff that people find so bad it's good about it isn't even that fun. And it's just it's
especially
bizarre.
Compared to the other so bad it's good stuff you have out there.
It was actually the Garbage Day thing and some of the other things that maybe have been clipped about that movie are just actually funnier when you don't know the context. Knowing the context made them less funny.
Oh, wow.
It's really bizarre.
That is bizarre.
Yeah.
Because you'd think, like, with context, the Garbage Day would actually be a pretty genuinely funny thing, but I guess it's just a better meme. That's a bummer.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes these things are just meant to be memed and nothing more.
Fucking annoying. The only other Santa horror movie that I watched in prep for this was like Better Watch Out, or I guess known as like Christmas Evil or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Which is a little not quite as slasher and fun as psychologically engaging as this, but it does have a bit where it does try to do like a Taxi Driver kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
Where the guy legitimately, not just Billy is he upset about Santa Claus or has been psychologically hurt by Santa Claus, he's actually starts to just think of himself as Santa Claus.
Oh, that's interesting.
And it even has like the mirror scene where he's just like, he's got the beard and he's like, you want him to be like, you talking to me? Like
yeah. But instead he's like, ho, ho, ho.
But it also has that sexual aspect to it because he's really heartbroken because he saw Santa Claus and his experience with seeing Santa Claus was his dad dressed up as Santa Claus eating out his mom.
That's more positive than Santa raping your mom, I guess.
Yep, and that's just what really fucked him up. But I will say Christmas Evil has an amazing ending, which bumped it up a whole star for me.
Went from the 2 to the 3.
Yeah, where he goes on a bit of a Christmas murder spree as well, where he's upset because he works at like a toy factory, and like the boss is like, we should give away all these toys to the kids, but like, not on my dime. Like you should work more hours and put your own money into it,
so I can be the good guy.
And the toys are all garbage and all of this, and like it's possible that they're like hurting kids and stuff. And so he's actually on a genuine kind of revenge mission against Santa and the literal commercial aspect of Christmas. And this part though, where the town's coming after him with torches and pitchforks as like the Santa murderer, and he gets in this van, this Christmas van, and it has the reindeer and sled on the side of the van, and the mob forces him off a bridge where he drives off of the bridge. And the last shot of the movie is this magical shot where he's just flying and it looks like he's Santa in a van with the sled.
Dude, that's genius.
And
I haven't even seen it and I can like visualize the
van,
that.
You don't see the van go down. He just goes up and it looks like he's going up into the moon and that's all you see. He literally transcends into Santa Claus.
Oh my God, that's gorgeous.
Amazing.
That's beautiful shit right there.
Yep.
Oh my God. I'm going to shout out to that film then because I got to check.
So if you guys want to check that one out,
again?
that one's called Christmas Evil, or also known, I think, as Better Watch Out or something like that.
Okay.
It's from 1980.
That's pretty good.
So it actually predates Silent Night.
That's pretty good. I got to say. Good. I don't know if it quite beats the killing Santa Claus in front of orphans twice. But it's almost there.
The one thing I'll say about that is that one's a little bit more dull for longer because it takes a really long time for him to convert into Santa Claus, and his murder spree and his psychological transition into Santa Claus isn't as convincing as this film.
Yeah.
And the actual slasher elements are much more impressive in this film than in that film. It's really just a really awesome ending.
Yeah.
Sort of like that Halloween 4 or 5 or whatever I watched with the little girl, where like the last 10 minutes of that movie.
Oh, when the guy's going to kill the girl because he's convinced that she's Michael.
Oh, yeah. And the whole scene with Michael on top of the car, like it's an action movie, like Arnold's on top of a vehicle or something.
For sure.
Awesome. awesome. Anyway, big digression there. We should enter the reductive rating round on Silent Night, Deadly Night. For me, this is a really high 4.
Yeah.
I don't know why that seems like a big deal. Maybe just because everyone else I kind of see on here kind of seems to be giving it.
I was expecting to give it a 3.
Yeah.
Myself. I'm also giving it a 4. But it's like, it was just, I thought I was going to ironically enjoy it.
No.
And I just thoroughly enjoy this film.
Yeah. And I, unlike, maybe not unlike Black Christmas, because again, I don't know what I would cut from that, but this moves. I can't think of a single wasted piece of time in this movie that isn't establishing his really fucked up psychology and how it was ingrained into him, and how both sexualized and violent and related to the image of Santa Claus and the idea of I guess sort of like moral punishment as it relates to also both sex and violence. Again, all of this combines in a way that is actually decently written.
Yeah.
And decently captured and executed by the film. So the only thing that is maybe not super stellar in this movie and didn't hurt the movie for me is maybe the acting.
Yeah. It's not terrible.
It's completely serviceable.
It's just mediocre.
It's fine.
It's just it's some dudes doing an okay job.
It works for the film.
Yeah. It definitely works for the film. I think honestly that might add to
some of it's kind of funny
add to
that
its
way.
Charm,
like that's a completely anonymous cop gunning down Santa Claus is just amazing to watch.
Yeah, absolutely.
So 4 for me and 4 for you.
4 for me too. Yeah, I can't believe how entertained I was. There's not a dull moment in this film. I think I can't think of one scene like you said that I would cut out or anything like that. There's no filler. Even that montage where it's like the happy-go-lucky retail montage, I feel is necessary because
that's supposed to be the bit of normalcy that he could have, right?
Exactly. So it's like Billy's normal right now,
yeah.
and it established that really well, and then it just digresses to a fucking crazy murder spree with Santa, and it's just awesome. It's awesome. It was a very surprising film. I couldn't believe how much I thoroughly enjoyed it. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a 4.
Yeah, I need to say, I think Santa and murder just work well together, and I think I think we just need more of that. We need more of that.
Another one.
Either way, I actually really loved both of these films, and I was shocked by that. But I guess that'll be it for this week's episode, guys. We kind of went long on both of those, longer than I expected on both. But it was weird. I
really liked them.
Black Christmas, I expected to be really good, but Silent Night, Deadly Night was honestly much meatier.
That was kind of a wild card.
It was much meatier than I expected.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe we're the crazy ones, because clearly we feel this way, and a lot of people don't. But
I guess.
But everyone's reaction to this movie had me prepared to be like, this is going to be like bad trash, but fun. I expected kind of like maybe Raw Deal or like lower than Raw Deal kind of deal. Like maybe it would just be a cool gimmick, and that would a slasher with a cool gimmick,
kind of like Death Wish or something.
Yeah,
yeah,
just a slasher with a gimmick.
Yeah,
and that's what I expected.
Exactly.
And instead, I got something that was actually had interesting psychology and elements about Christmas as a Christian holiday.
Those comparisons for God and Santa were just fantastic in Silent Night. I loved that.
Yeah, and I mean they sound juvenile when you say them, but they work in the universe of the movie. It's just, I don't know, it's kind of hard to describe. I would just recommend watching this movie and letting us know what you think.
Watch both of these. Yes,
we're gonna full out recommend this one from both of us. But that'll wrap it up for this week's show. Thanks so much for listening, guys. As always. Something. What do I say at this part?
Did we say the movies yet that we're doing?
Oh yeah, shit. I gotta do something like that.
We know the next two. I know that.
Yeah. The next episode next week. Patrons, you can expect an exclusive episode for you guys. The very last episode of 2018.
Yeah.
One more left before New Year's. And we're gonna kill. What is it? Kill two birds, one stone, something like that.
Or we could do
my brain was ruined by Santa Claus and death and sex.
What did PETA tell us to use a few days ago? They changed it. I remember.
Oh, did they?
It was
one leaf.
Feed 2 birds with 1 scone. Fucking lame.
What the fuck, PETA? Either way, I guess that's what I'm doing here. So before the end of the year, we realized, one, we hadn't done the 1940s yet. We've done 1930s to the 2000s. We've done every decade between there except for the 1940s.
Yeah.
So, bam, we're going to the 1940s. One. Number two, we haven't done noir.
Yes.
Somehow
I know that's like one of your favorites. So,
well, I mean, I think a lot of modern crime stuff that people love today is like kind of like neo-noir too, which is like noir in a modern setting.
Definitely.
Or was at least inspired by noir. And a lot of my favorite movies are like detective crime, stuff like that.
Especially that thought of like the gritty detective that's good on the inside but has this rough around the edges.
It's like every TV show is about the anti-hero now.
Exactly.
And like these noir dudes were like the original anti-heroes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're going to do noir, and we're going to go to the 40s, and we're going to tackle two very famous noir films. Normally we would pick maybe one smaller one, but since this is our first go, and Jamie's first time watching noirs, I felt that he should watch two of the big ones and get really introduced to the genre. So if you guys want to watch along with us, those films are going to be The Maltese Falcon, 1941.
Yeah.
What is generally recognized as possibly the first noir film. And then we're going to be talking about Double Indemnity by Billy Wilder, considered one of the best Hollywood screenwriters, and also Raymond Chandler, who would go on to write some of the biggest and best noir / detective novels, including the really famous character Philip Marlowe, who was famously in The Big Sleep, The Long Goodbye, which inspired things like Inherent Vice. And so like in both of these movies, we have a long history of the people who would go on to define noir and define a lot of crime and detective fiction for the next, I guess 70 years so far, 80 years. We're getting pretty far.
Crazy.
So that'll be our last episode of the year. And because of that, 2 weeks from now, the free episode, the big episode for everyone, since we get a lot of questions from a lot of people asking about what do Jamie and I think of the newest
stuff.
releases, because a lot of people will see our ratings on Letterboxd, but they don't know our thoughts.
Yeah.
They want to know our thoughts, Jamie.
Yeah.
They
I
want to
give it to them.
So we thought, as a little treat for you guys, and and just to say up front, none of these films are going to go in our list of the overall list, because
these are 21st century.
Yes,
films.
these are not. We make a couple exceptions for films that are very inspired by exploitation films and stuff like that.
And even
like
usually
Kill Bill.
those are like early 2000s at the most.
Exactly.
So,
We're not going to be doing a lot of content from the 2010s. Needless to say, 2018 films are not going to count on our ongoing ranked list, but we are going to count down for you our top 10 genre movies of 2018. Jamie and I think we haven't fully worked out how we're going to do this yet, but I think we might.
I still need to look at the list and make mine.
I think what I might
official.
do is try and have us do a joint list.
Yeah.
Where you make your top 10, I make my top 10, and then from there we collaborate on an overall top 10, maybe based on like placement height. So like my number one gets like rank them in the way that you want of importance, basically, and we'll work that out. Either way, that's the nitty gritty. We'll figure that out in time for the show. But Jamie and I are going to talk about our favorite genre movies of 2018, horror,
which will be cool.
Action. I think we're going to come up with a couple rules where we might eliminate certain blockbusters and we might eliminate certain other kinds of films. We're going to try
but to be honest, it's like the blockbusters probably weren't going to make it onto the
the only one I can
anyway.
think of would be like Mission Impossible, maybe.
Maybe.
But like, and we did talk about Mission Impossible on the show, but like that's no longer like the little action movie that could. This is like one of the biggest franchises in the world now. So it's not it's not quite trash. It's not quite that level anymore. It's very slick now. Either way, that's what you can expect in 2 weeks' times. Our countdown of the top 10 genre movies of 2018 to wrap up that year. So stick around. And as always, guys, thanks for listening and keep it sleazy.
Keep it sleazy.